welcome to another edition of Social Media News Live. So excited. Friday is my favorite day because I get to talk to Grace and I get to talk to all of you. So as we're going along today, it'd be great if you wanted to bring your friends into the conversation, mention them down below. This is going to be an exciting show. We've had some scheduling issues, and so I don't know. I think Mark is not going to be here today, so it's just me and Grace, which is amazing. But if you would like to be part of the show, let us know. Send me a direct message or in the chat, and I'll drop you the link, and you can join in here because we're all customers in some way or another. And we would love to have you. This is going to be an interesting show. We're going to be talking about Meta, all sorts of stuff.
We have our friend Gary Stockton in the comments. If he's
Gary, get in your studio. Come on stage with us. Let me know, and I'll send you a link that you can come and join us because I know you deal with customer service quite a bit. There's Sabrina, our friend Sabrina. I got to pull these people up because they're just amazing. So, good morning, you beautiful people, says Gary. Well, he must be talking about Grace. Anyway, and then there's Sabrina, who's amazing. Thank you, Sabrina. Thanks for putting up with all the stuff the last couple weeks outside of the studio because it was a little crazy with angle grinding outside of the 12th floor and, being remote. I had a great time. I'm recharged. I'm excited to be back with all of you. Grace, how are things in Dallas?
They are great. They are great. I love Fridays because I get to talk to my friend Jeff. And we always plan a really great show. And it's always like leading up to the week. I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we going to talk about? And then the show just comes together. So yes. I could not do this without my awesome co-host, Jeff. We are a great team. So shout out to teamwork.
Yes. Hey, Chris, we had some scheduling issues. I see Chris Stone is in the house today. Chris or Gary, if you would like to come on the show and talk to us about customer experiences, I know you both have experience in that. Let me know. Send me a DM on Facebook, and that's what I have open right now. And I'll shoot you the link. Yeah,
our friend Jen is in the chat.
Oh, hi, Jen, miss you too. So good to see you. She is killing it at her new job in Wichita. So very, very cool. So. Brian goes, Jeff, are you back with pictures from the trip? We need to see the Thor outfit and the braided beard. Those probably will never see the light of day. Brian, I should do a raffle or something but it was a blast. It was so much fun. I'm a Disney geek. It was a Marvel day at sea. And the ship was pretty much empty. And so it was very, very cool. So, but maybe Brian, maybe someday. So yeah, Chris says, I'm going to create a virtual grinding noise here in the chat. So Jeff feels right at home. Yes, it was pretty crazy. Luckily, the cool thing is by our friends over at Ecamm, when you record it, I have it set up so it records in separate tracks. So when I actually made the podcast, I was able to take out that, and it's pretty clean. So that's what's very, very cool. So, but yeah, Chris, Gary, if you want to join me, send me a link because we're talking about customer experience today. Grace, anything else before I hit go? Brian says NFTs of you. Yeah, those would probably sell very well. Those would probably be banned in many, many countries. So, Grace, anything else before we get started? I hit go on the podcast machine.
I think that and has Gary or Chris responded yet?
I haven't. Let me see Gary here. Yeah. So Gary, I'm going to send you this link really quick.
Let's get him set up, and then
yes.
And then once we get him in studio, we can launch because let's get him set up first. Guys, you are watching live video in action. I did a live show for my company Restream yesterday, and I kid you not, it was a performance. We had this really great performer. He's sang and performed all over the world. Cool. And yeah, it was really cool. So if you want to check that out, go over to the Restream YouTube channel. You can see that concert. But he's doing this performance. It's amazing. We're taking requests, and then the fire alarm goes off. And I could see my producer in the behind the scenes. We have a cool new feature over at Restream called Team Accounts, where I was able to have one of my teammates, my coworkers, in there, managing the whole show, kind of what Jeff does
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes while I'm just yammering on. And so I could see him like putting me on mute, putting himself on mute, and we were trying to like locate the fire. But you know what? This is live video. Sometimes things
That's
happen. You
right.
can't do it. So
That's one of the,
let's.
just real quick about that because we had issues a couple weeks ago when I was traveling. One of the cool things is that when you have a co-host, I mean, all these like Ecamm and Restream, it's really really cool that you can go live by yourself. But it's really nice when you have issues to have a co-host that you can throw things to. Like Grace pretty much ran the show when that noise was going on. Okay, we've got Gary in the green room. Let me go over to. Let me go back to our screen and bring our friend Gary Stockton up. Gary, let's see, make sure this will work. There he is. Can we hear you, Gary?
Yay!
Good
Oh my
morning,
gosh.
everybody. Wow, I'm in the flesh today.
That's right. Look
You're
at this, and you raise the level of our production just by your accent. So let me pull you over here. So that's Gary. Yes, Gary
give us
Stockton.
some much needed gravitas. So thank you, because it would have just been me and Jeff doing this.
Oh,
Yeah. Yes. So but
I'm just a fan, guys. Really, I come every Friday for the great insights on the show, and I just learn a lot. So I'm not the customer service expert, but I'm a good customer.
See, there you go. That's what we're going to talk about, Gary.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk. Today's show is all about that customer experience. Last week we had the wonderful Brooke Ellis on to talk about customer support, which is one of the pillars of customer experience. So we're going to dive into that in today's show. We're going to talk about building that trust and what customers engage with from the beginning, that touch point that they have with you at any point, right? We talk about marketing as a flywheel. They could come in at any point and just how are we serving them? So I'm excited to have you on, Gary, as a customer, as a business owner, and as a fan. So you know exactly how we do things around here.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, you've got some great questions coming up. We're going to get to those about some of the customer experience at Disney and some other things. I want to talk about those. But first, you guys are kind of seeing how the sausage is made, and this is why I love Ecamm so much. But I'm going to change this. So we had Mark we had some issues with scheduling, so we are going to change this. So I'm going to change it to Mr. Gary Stockton. So, Gary, what do you want? Because I'll repurpose this, and I want to make sure if I can spell your name right. There we go. What's going on? Okay. Do you want to what's your lower third do you want for your title? Like what website?
Well, I'm with Experian, so
okay.
I mean content marketing for Experian.
Okay. Would it be like Experian.com? Is that what you'd like at the bottom?
Yeah, Experian.com. That's our main domain. Yeah.
EXP
ERIAN.
ERIAN.com. Okay. Tell me this is right. We'll get it all set. See, you guys are seeing how easy it is to change this stuff on the fly. Here is that it?
That's it. Yeah, I'm the /B2B side of things, but so I work for Experian. I work on the B2B side of the house, and in my role, I work in content marketing for both the small business products, so smartbusinessreports.com, and then on the B2B side, some of our solutions for lending institutions and big brands. So I get to do a little bit of both, but I like small business the most because I get to do a podcast and talk to small business owners.
So, Gary, we're gonna go on the podcast machine. I want to introduce you, but I want you to tell people where they can find your podcast as well. So, Grace, are you ready to get started? If I go live here,
I am ready to go. I was about to ask you, Jeff, are you recording this? Because that was like amazing.
I record everything, but I want to do my intro that we can have for the podcast. So here we go. Let me get started, and we will get started here. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not.
I'm Grace Duffy, and this is the show that keeps you up to date on what's happening in the world of social media.
And today we are joined by my friend, and he's amazing because he's always here every week, Gary Stockton from Experian.com, and we're going to be talking all about customer experience, his ideas and thoughts about all this, because he's super knowledgeable, and I'm so excited that he was able, at the last minute, I mean, seriously, the last minute, to join the show with us. Gary, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. I love watching the show every week, and I think you got a really good thing going here, Grace and Jeff. So I'm a big fan.
Well, thank you. So
thank you.
Let's talk about this. We're all customers in some way or another, but more and more this customer experience. So we talked about it with Brooke last week. We're talking about it today in even more depth, how important it is for marketing and businesses, small and big, how important this is moving forward in this year and growing. As the Metaverse, we're going to be talking about that today, all sorts of things. So, Grace, why don't we just jump right into it, and you take us away with some of the news and articles that you've pulled together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Gary, thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to talk about that customer experience beyond social media and beyond customer support. We tackled that topic last week with the wonderful Brooke Sellis. So if you weren't able to catch that live or watch the replay, please go back, watch the video, listen to the podcast. It was a great show on customer support and customer care and how to manage that using social media. However, customer support is only one part of that pillar of that customer experience. And we're here today with Gary to talk about what is it, it gets thrown a lot. It gets thrown around a lot, like customer experience, CX. We're excited to have you on the show, Gary, to talk about what is it and what does it mean? So can you tell us everything that, especially you with your experience with the B2B side, like what do you think that customer experience encompasses? Like what do marketers really need to know and understand about customer experience? It's been a buzzword for a while, but break it down for us.
Well, I think it's creating those moments of magic with your customers where they think of you maybe more than just a brand or a logo, but that company that really made a difference, at important times. My own company that I work for, Experian, we're the custodians of the world's credit information. So, we help lenders make decisions on small business, but we also help small businesses build and maintain strong credit so they can get access to affordable financing. But my own view is, you have to be responsive to customers. You have to be a good listener and really understand what their challenges are, what their problems are, and try and build products and solutions and services that really address the challenges that they have in their everyday lives.
So, Gary, I just wanted to, and we're pulling all sorts of audibles today because I'm going to pick your brain because you work for this big company in the marketing department, but you probably see, for a credit, company, you probably get a lot of having to deal with customer service and negative comments because finances is one of those touchy subjects and credit is another super touchy subject. So you're hitting two of the really big ones right away. How is there a whole process that your customer service goes through to move the customer, and trying to make them happy? I mean, a lot of times you can't with finances, but can you kind of walk us through a little bit how that happens?
Yeah, sure. So on the consumer side, that there's regulation around that and being timely and responsive to complaints or disputes about credit. I don't work on that side of the business. I'm more on the B2B side, but even so, if there are mistakes or errors on credit reports, we have to have a process to investigate those. All the information that comes in on the finance side of the things and the credit history side of things is sourced from third parties. So we have to investigate those diligently and determine if it was indeed a mistake and get that corrected. And sometimes that can take, 30 to 45 days. And people, really when they're in the moment trying to get financing, they want it corrected in 45 minutes. And so a lot of the time, really have to get people set their expectations correctly and really explain to them. It could take a little time to investigate, but we will get to the bottom of it. I think the internet, I think Amazon, I think the immediacy of commerce, the immediacy of response, it's seconds, it's milliseconds. That's really raised the expectation on the part of consumers now across the board, not just on consumer websites and e-commerce, but for everybody.
Very, very true. So one of the things that what Grace had pulled together for this show was that in sales, there's an article in Salesforce in it, and they said, really, really confidently, in fact, that customers are willing to pay a premium for a great experience and not just great products and services. So this means that businesses have, an opportunity to increase their revenue by delighting their customers in a way that no one else does. So that's great news. But if I think I was to ask a customer if they would rather have a good buying experience or the best value, they probably going to say, well, we want both. So what are your thoughts, Gary, on how business can balance like providing a consistently good buying experience and then the best customer value they can get? I mean, I know that's a tough thing for companies, but you working for the the B2B side, I know a lot of your customers are dealing with this right now.
Yeah. Well, I think you really have to pick where you can make the biggest impact, where you can move the needle the most. I mean, right now, Experian's very focused on underbanked, the unbanked, people that don't have credit scores. And there are around 28 million, I think 28 million was the number that I read. 28 million people that don't have credit scores. So we just released something called Experian Go, which is if you're an unscored person, when you go to the website, you can start and create your own credit profile. Now that's going to make a huge difference for people who couldn't get credit card, couldn't get established there with loans. That's going to move the needle significantly in society for Experian and for millions of consumers. Enhancing the mobile app, so it loads faster. You can see where that may come down in scale. Where can you make the biggest impact for the greatest number of people?
Yeah, those are all good points. So, Grace, did you have a follow-up question on that?
Yeah. So building on this point of that opportunity to really bank on serving excellent customer experience, do you think it's true that customers really would be willing to pay a premium or are willing to pay a premium for good customer experience? Also, given all of these tech advances and broader access to more choices, and as you mentioned, the immediacy of commerce, like for example, if you're not happy buying expensive razors, which people were happy to do for decades, right? And then along comes all these other inexpensive monthly delivery services to solve that problem for you. And you don't even have to go out and look for it. It just gets set to you once a month, whatever the cadence is, right? Or if you're fed up with mediocre hotel chains or not getting what you want, then that don't offer value, then why not try Airbnb? Or, and we could fill in a million other new companies or emerging companies out of this space. Like, you don't want to go to the gym. Here's a service that you can do at home. So do you think customers really are willing to pay a premium when there's so many value options or value-based options out there?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, myself, I've got several subscriptions that I pay for. I pay for YouTube, because for me, time is more valuable, and those 5-10 second ads, they all add up to minutes, sometimes hours. So the way I look at it is I want to see the content immediately. Also, streaming music, I listen to Apple, and I don't have to take chances on buying records. I can stream the records and then add them to my collection if I want to buy them. So absolutely, people will pay a premium. And I think what's really great about living in this era, this time, this moment in time, there's so much innovation going on around the customer experience. And we've got AI, really predicting what people's needs are going to be, their preferences in viewing things, your algorithm. You would see a different feed of movie suggestions based on what you've been watching. So there's just a lot to get excited about there in terms of signing up for services and paying a premium.
Yeah, one of the things I want to. This is a great question from Jonathan Perez, who's watching over on LinkedIn, and he goes, I would think retention is critical. If you only focus on customer acquisition, then you'll work twice as hard. And I think that's a great point, Jonathan. What are your thoughts on that, Gary? On retaining those customers, because it's not just providing a great we're onboarding you really easy. We make you have all these choices, and we're sending you something in the mail every month. But it's like, how do you keep those customers? Which a lot of times, and I know a lot of companies forget about. They get them and they're like, oh, great, we got a customer. So what are your thoughts on this?
I saw this reminds me of a great keynote that I saw at Social Media Marketing World a couple of years ago. The gentleman's name, Joey, his second name escapes me, but his whole mantra was creating an unforgettable experience for your customer in the first 100 days. If you can, and the examples that he gave, there was Zojus, I think it was an industrial towel supplier. They supply towels to gyms, but the part of their onboarding was, when you sign up to get supplied by them, you get a personal video with your first name, welcoming you to Zojus, and it really, is a personal onboarding. And he gave a whole bunch of examples in this speech, and it just really thinking about making it so that your customers never want to leave. You've created such a great experience for them early on in the relationship, and that really will sustain you. But also looking for those signals when you think that your customers may be becoming disengaged, maybe using your services less. Having your systems, your analytics tuned so that you can be listening for those signs that they may be leaving or going to a competitor.
I think that's really, really key. So, Gary, so we've got Mark came in, and so I wanted to get before we kind of move to his thoughts is, where can people find? I mean, you have a podcast and you do this B2B stuff over on Experian. Tell us about that and how people can find you.
Well, Jeff's going to be on the podcast. You guys don't know this, but we talked to Jeff, and his episode's coming up. It's called the Small Business Matters podcast. I love talking to small businesses, and Jeff came on to talk about Pinterest, manly Pinterest tips. This week, our episode focuses on a fourth generation business owner and Black Entrepreneur of the Year, Kiwa Narula. Her great-grandfather fled the Tulsa Massacre for Chicago, and there was a long line of 4 generations of small business owners out of that family, and she just has a wonderful tale. So I love doing that podcast, talking with small business owners, Small Business Matters, and we drop an episode once every couple of weeks.
Yeah, so go check it out, because Gary, as you can tell, he's super smart, super cool guy, popping in like this, giving us his advice. Gary, you are a true fan. You are a true friend. Thank you so much for doing this for us. And I want to make sure we want to push this out. Make sure do us a favor and go and subscribe to Gary's podcast. Give him a rating and review, because it really does help out podcasters. And Gary, please drop in your podcast link in the comments below, because I want to make sure everybody finds out about that. So Gary, thank you, my friend, for being here today.
Thank you very much, guys.
See you later, Gary.
Okay.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, man. Gary came through for us in the end.
What a pro! Right? So but you know what? All of those answers completely off the cuff, completely honest, completely, just that is what a great rock star he is. So
thanks, Gary, so much. You're the man. So I want to bring on our guest too, is the amazing Mark Shafer. Okay, we thought maybe that it was our fault. So I got your email right before you came on. How you doing, Mark?
I'm so embarrassed.
You're good.
I'm doing a million things, and I got the time wrong, and I apologize. I just had it on my calendar wrong, and so anyway. But here I am. Thank you for being gracious. And I mean, I hate that. I can't remember the last time I've been late for anything, and especially love coming to see you, because you're such great pros and ask such great questions. And you've supported me so immensely over the years. So thank you. I'm sorry. And now on with the show.
So, but Mark,
Mark, we absolve you of your guilt. So please don't ever think about this again. Don't worry about it. This stuff happens. And if you've seen the last few episodes of this show, everything has happened. So it's fine. We're doing it. This is great. This is the magic of live video. We get to showcase. We get to showcase. Hey, we got to showcase eCam in action today, of how you can quickly switch these lower thirds and quickly bring people in and out. And just like, I cannot think of a better way to showcase the power of live video other than things like this happening, life happening, right? So
and you got to remember, our fans are amazing, and our community. I mean, Gary stepped in like 2 seconds before we went live and was able to talk and share his stuff. So Gary, once again, you the man.
He is the man.
He is the man. So I'm going to actually, while we are talking, fix this. So, Grace, can you introduce our guest as I fix the lower third?
Yes, absolutely. We have Mark Shafer joining us here today. We brought him on to talk about designing customer experience beyond social media and customer support. As we mentioned last week, we had his marketing companion podcast co-host Brooke Sellis on to talk about customer care through social. We wanted to bring Mark on to talk about that full customer experience because, again, customer support, customer care is just one part of it. We're talking about how hard companies work for that acquisition, but they don't really work to continue to keep that company and there's the customer. And there's so many ways that people encounter companies these days. And part of that is building trust. So, with customers having so many ways to encounter customers, we wanted to talk about creating this seamless experience for them throughout all the channels, throughout the touch points. And we also want to dive into the future of marketing with the world of Web 3.0 and then, of course, the metaverse. But just a little bit. I'm not going to go deep into it. We're not going to get lost in it. But hey, we are so honored.
Who can?
I want to see your avatar is what I want to see.
Nobody can go deep into the metaverse at this point.
Right.
Well, we are joined today by Mark Shafer. He is the executive director at Shafer Marketing Solutions. He is a globally recognized keynote speaker, educator, and business consultant. And if you haven't had a chance to hear Mark speak, here's your chance. He is amazing. I love him. He's the author of several books. We talked to him a few months ago about his latest book, Cumulative Advantage, which is also one of our favorites. He's also known for Known and Marketing Rebellion, which I actually referenced a lot of as I was preparing for this show, which is The Most Human Company Wins. Mm-hmm. And then you could also catch him on his blog, Grow, one of the top marketing blogs in the world. And of course, again, he co-hosts The Marketing Companion with Brooke Sellis. So Mark, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you could make it today.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah. I want to do a shout out though. Also, if you guys are watching on Amazon Live, I have all of Mark's books in the carousel. So make sure you guys check those out. They are well worth the amount you spend on them. I still reference them today. I have them all on Kindle. I have some physical copies. So if you're interested in what Mark has to say, make sure you guys check those out in the carousel down below. So, all right, let's move on to building brand trust because Mark talks a lot about this. And there's a really great article that Grace that you found that you talked about customer experience. So why don't you just go ahead and take that away?
Yeah, so Forbes published this article recently, and the title is Brand Trust Emerges as a Single Best Contributor to Customer Experience. And the research in here cites that they examined customer service across these 5 categories of brand image, the purchasing experience, the experience of using the product or the service, the relationship, and then customer service. And among these 5, brand image emerged as the most significant contributor to this X factor going across all countries surveyed. Brand image in this case is assessed by how much customers say they trust a brand, their perception of how much the brand stays true to its commitments, and then surprisingly, how it treats its frontline employees. So, of course, we've been hearing a lot about how employees are being treated at different companies, and that does color the way that people look and trust and feel about the companies that they purchase things or support or whatever. So, how can companies measure this experience metric for themselves? Because this was a research along with a company. I think it was Havas customer experience. Anyway, I would love to know how companies can measure and assess this metric for themselves and see how they're doing.
Well, I think the key idea is one of the trends I see is that increasingly the title of Chief Marketing Officer is becoming Chief Experience Officer. And it certainly makes sense and is probably overdue because everything we do and everything we don't do impacts the brand. I wrote a blog post this week talking about how in my early days of marketing, I was in a big B2B company and I spent most of my time in the transportation department. Why? Because transportation was key to our customers. We worked in this manufacturing environment. We needed to have the product be there on time. We needed to have it arrive just in time. We had to reduce their inventory levels. And this was really the most important part of the customer experience. So that's where I dwelled. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I think most people listening today probably don't think about transportation as a part of trust or a part of marketing. But in that example, it was the most important part. And I think the um, the challenge is that most people are sort of one-dimensional these days when it comes to marketing. It's about digital, it's about social media, without really considering everything that goes into the customer experience. You know, last show, Brooke was talking about customer experiences and some of the problems with customer experience right now. You know what? Largely, it's not a marketing problem. It's an HR problem. We can't get enough people to be reliable customer service agents, right? The world has shifted to e-commerce. The orders on e-commerce have surged. The complaints on online channels have surged. We see research that when customer service people are working at home, they're not as effective than they were working in a call center. So this is a crucial customer touch point. If your customers are angry or disappointed, on average, they're going to tell 7 people, right? If they're happy, they're going to tell 2. Marketing becomes an HR problem. So there's not really one measure. You need to look at the total experience. You might need to see, I worked with one company, and what we found was their customers were spending too much time on the phone when they're trying to place orders, right? So that became our number one marketing metric. And it wasn't forever, right? We had to solve that. But we need to look at the entire customer experience and start knocking down every touch point that might be causing a problem.
So you mentioned that you, with that company, you had to find that metric. So is that metric going to change depending on the customer, or is there a certain metric that all businesses should be paying attention to? Is because it sounds like, you talked about that things are changing so fast and that it's multifaceted now with social media. Is there one thing that companies can look to, or is it you're going to have to figure it out and that's going to depend on the company?
Yeah, it's almost never the same thing. This is one of the biggest problems I see with marketing consulting, especially if you're busy, that people go in with cookie cutter plans, cookie cutter metrics, and that almost never works because we have to look at the distinct and unique competitive landscape for every company. We have to look at, where are the customers and what are their expectations? Where can we maneuver? What are our strengths that we can leverage? And increasingly, with the speed of change in business, it's not just about a strategy to leverage our strengths, over time. It's about how do we leverage our strengths right now? Especially, we're in this still in the grip in many ways and in many places of the pandemic. I've talked about this idea that we're in an era of unintended consequences. Our customers are changing in so many ways. They're coming out of this pandemic different than how they were 2 years ago, or now, almost 3 years ago. But their habits have changed. The way they buy changed. Everything about their life is being renegotiated. How they work, where they work, when they work, how they learn, how they educate, how they connect, how they commune, how they date. I was talking to a brand manager at Adidas, and he said that the pandemic has redefined sport, right? So this is profound. And a lot of those habits, I think I saw a statistic, 88% of Americans said their buying habits have changed during the pandemic, and 92% of them said those habits are going to stay that way. So now's the time to be humble and reconnect with our customers. I'm not sure in many cases we really know what the most important things are right now, what the most important expectations are. And maybe even we need to reconsider what our metrics are.
Great point. I wanted to bring up this question from our listener, Jonathan Perez. He's saying, are you building hassle maps for the buyer journey to help identify these pinch points? It's a good question.
Yeah. I don't know what a hassle map is.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't know either. So Jonathan,
I didn't either, and I was like, well, I think I'll ask the question.
Maybe Jonathan is in the hassle map business. But I don't know. I mean, I just think, look, this is marketing 101, right? I mean, marketing is about building demand for whatever you do to respond to your customers in a rapid and meaningful way, hopefully better than your competitors. And that's exactly what I'm talking about right now. So, I mean, I don't look at any research right now that started before of March of 2020. That's what I mean by being humble. And I don't know if we know all of our customer pinch points right now. If we've got a whole workforce working remotely, they've got entirely new pinch points, right? They may need new types of IT support, new types of childcare, new types of healthcare, new ways to communicate, new way. Maybe they need to work out, 24/7. Have access to health clubs and healthcare and childcare and food. I think there's going to be an emerging model of remote working hubs, of maybe specialized apartment complexes or condominium, areas that are really specialized, focusing on remote workers. So, I mean, there's going to be entirely new business models emerging over the next 2 years. You look at the housing shortages. You look at inflation. You look at shortages, and it's even hard to get a car these days. Those are all opportunities, by the way, for new business models, and they all represent potential customer pinch points, unmet and underserved customer needs.
So Gary goes, hassle map is his Saturday to-do list, which I don't think we're really talking about, but I feel your pain, Gary. But Jonathan says it's a blueprint. He came back over on LinkedIn and said it's a blueprint to identify any issues and obstacles that a buyer encounters through their journey. So that's a new term, but so I think you answered that. But one of the questions was, one of the things that Grace had put together for us is Forbes also mentioned that the latest Edelman Trust Barometer found that around half of all respondents worldwide want to do business to do more to tackle these societal problems like climate change and economic inequality, concluding that societal leadership is now a core function of the business. Now, you've talked about this before, I know, quite a bit, and we talked about it at the very beginning, even with Gary, is the shaping brand, the customer experiences. And in this article, they said to succeed, brands need to think not just about how well they understand customers and how well they engage with them, but also how they do things, how they treat their employees and their impact on the world, all that stuff. So these topics, Mark, like economic equality, climate controversies, and societal issues that a lot of brands run away from, not towards. So can you talk to us about how business should really dive into some of these complicated and tough topics like these?
But it really is such a complicated topic, and it really, in some ways, Jeff, it's an existential topic. Here's the thing that is so strange to an old school sort of business model or marketing view of the world. So a marketing strategy in the past was determined basically by economic factors. It was determined by how well you can compete, how well you can bring a product to market. What are the activities of your customers? What are the activities of your competitors, right? The weird thing that's happening is civic activity is starting now to press in on marketing. I think it's a new day. It really is. It's a new day. And as I reflect on my career and I think about what I was doing and what marketing was like 20 or 30 years ago, to think about companies would be moving in this direction really was quite unthinkable. I think the two main points I would make about this is that purpose-driven marketing isn't a tactic. It has to be part of your company from the top to the bottom. Purpose-driven marketing cannot be a reaction to something. There's a protest in the street. Oh, now we stand for this, right? It has to be part of the DNA of the company. So what I mean by that is, let's say Patagonia. If Patagonia comes out and says something about an environmental issue, you believe it because that's the way they were built and that's what they stand for. So they're not blowing in the wind. It's not a reaction. It's part of their DNA from the top of the company to the bottom of the company. The second thing that I would say is that it's not necessarily for everyone. A lot of the biggest brands will have to respond this way. But one of the little exercises I do with in my workshops or with my students is I'll say, think about all the products you bought in the last 2 weeks. Could be a jacket because it's cold. It could be gasoline for your car. It could be a plant for your office. And so maybe dozens or even hundreds of products you buy on a day-to-day basis. Now, name those products you bought because they stood for something. And generally speaking, it's almost none. We buy a sandwich because we're hungry. We buy a coat because we're cold. We buy breakfast cereal because that's what we've always eaten since we were a kid. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of products that aren't being purchased because they stand for something. So number one, it has to be something that's organic. It's not a reaction. It has to be really part of the company's culture from the top to the bottom. Number two, look at the strategy, look at the reality very, very carefully. Don't think that you need to embark on purpose-driven marketing because everybody else is. Really look at, what are you doing in the world? What problem are you solving in the world? If you just want to be if you're an entertainer and you just want to entertain and make people laugh or make music or just give somebody a sandwich because they're hungry,
right.
You got to think very, very carefully about what you're doing. I had one example of someone I was talking to. I won't go into the details, but he had a music store, and he was just selling instruments. And this is something that really didn't have to be politicized necessarily. And people really aren't thinking, I wonder how you stand on the environment or Black Lives Matter. I mean, everybody loves music and everybody buys musical instruments. But he chose to take a very sort of harsh and in-your-face stand on a subject. And soon he had protesters all around his business. And he's complaining to me about, oh, this is cancel culture. And I said, no, this was just a bad business decision. You put your own ideas and your own dogma ahead of business. Now, you have every right to do that. It's your life, it's your world, it's your business. But you've got to know that if people just want a musical instrument, they don't want your dogma, well, then you might have to face the consequences. So, it's not necessarily for everybody.
So I wanted to bring up some.
Sorry.
I was going to bring up some. Oh, go ahead, Grace.
Yeah, don't interrupt Grace.
Sorry.
Don't interrupt me, Jeff.
Really good point.
No,
so
I
want
thinking,
to make sure that this is acknowledged.
No, this is a really good point because it just brought up there's a local sandwich shop near where I live, and like they decided to take a really hard political stance, and now it's just like, well, I was just trying to choose whether or not I have a sandwich, whether or not I want to have a sandwich today. Now I have to choose like my political ideology and what sandwich I want. I'm not going to go there, It's like
Right.
it ended up having a negative. I mean, for the people that it was for, they loved it. For the people, it alienated so many other people. It's hard to say, but I was like, I really like. It was hard enough to choose what sandwich I wanted, and now I have to choose like what side of the political divide I'm on with the
I need to
sandwich.
wait for 10 seconds because my alarm is going off to tell me it's time to go on your show.
So important. We need to do a GoFundMe for a alarm.
I wasn't kidding you. I had the whole thing wrong on my calendar, but
gosh.
doggone it, I was ready. I had an alarm saying it's time for Jeff and Grace.
Yeah, that's funny. But okay, let's go back. So I want to bring up a comment from Jonathan. He goes, and this is your point too, Mark. It says it has to be a genuine behavior in order to build rapport. And one of the things, and I wanted to ask you, do you think a lot of it is almost like icing on the cake? For me, I love my Allbirds shoes because they're super comfortable. But they also have, zero carbon footprint and all this stuff. But to be honest, they're so comfortable. If they were made from like the tears and whiskers of a kitten, I would probably still wear them, Right. And this other thing is like an added bonus that, it makes me feel good. Do you think that's most of this kind of marketing, or do you think there really is a huge market that people buy because of Patagonia's stance?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both. You're talking about, attributes of a product that make you love and you're loyal to the product. And that's amazing. But I don't think we can really dismiss this idea that the purpose and values matter. And I'll give you two reasons why. Number one, I think it was in 2018, Blackstock, the big, trust, the big fund that funds all the businesses.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big holding company for a lot of businesses. I think they have $1 trillion worth of assets or something like that. They went out to all their companies and they said, it's no longer just about the money you make. We need to see how you make it. And there was an article in the Wall Street Journal about that statement. And they said, economics just changed, right? Because I grew up in the era of Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman said, the purpose of the firm is to, create shareholder value, and that's it. No, not anymore. And I think that was the statement that the BlackRock was making, is that the times have changed. This matters. It was a real shift and a significant milestone, really, in economic history. The second thing I'll talk about is the consumer side of this, that there is research that shows that if a product has shared meaning and shared values with a customer, they may switch, they may pay more, they may defend the brand. And, consequently, if there's a brand that doesn't share your values, then people are going to leave. It's one of the few things left that really can lead to loyalty today. We're in a world where loyalty is in decline because we're in a shop around culture, right? We're just on our smartphone, flipping, finding what we want. We don't really care. Okay, we expect the best price and free delivery. It's going to be here tomorrow. And so we're in this shop around culture. But the one thing that can change that is shared meaning and shared values. So I wouldn't be completely dismissive and say, well, it's still about, it's icing on the cake. I wouldn't call it icing on the cake. For some people, I think it's a core purchasing decision.
Gotcha. I'm just jaded and old. is probably the thing. It's what it is. Somebody, another great company that I got to make sure we talked about, and I kind of skipped over at the beginning, is our sponsors, Ecamm, and you can find out more about them at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. And by the way, you've seen how easy it is to switch things on the fly during a live show today. So shout out to our friends at Ecamm. In fact, they're actually getting ready to, at Social Media Marketing World, have a meetup. So Mark is going to be there speaking. We've had so many comments of people who have said that Mark has changed their business and they heard him at Social Media Marketing World. And so Mark is going to be there. Ecamm will be there. If you'd like to find out, there's some free trainings they're doing. So go to ecamm.tv/SMMW22 meetup. And you can find out all about that. But make sure, you're doing the keynote again this year, I believe. Are you?
No, I'm not doing. I'm not doing the official keynote. I'm on a big stage.
Yeah, which is it's a keynote if Mark's talking. Yeah. So it's always good. So,
but I'm excited. I always bring the thunder at Social Media Marketing World. It'll be something special.
Yeah. So make sure you go check out Ecamm. Going to be there as well. So now our last section is I'm really excited about because Mark has some interesting things that he's been doing that I want to talk about towards the end. But this whole new iteration of the internet is, all about putting control over data and content. There's even stuff in the news today about Google's doing stuff, increasing privacy and digital trust and offering all these immersive experiences. So all this stuff, Mark, how does it translate to business and customer experience? You've started to write a lot about it. I've seen and I want to talk to you a little bit later about your Rise coin and all that, but how does that work into customer experiences? Do we have to go and create an avatar now to talk to people over on the Metaverse and Facebook with our Oculuses? What's happening with the future of this customer experience that's going on?
Well, I think it's sort of an easy idea. I'm working on a blog post that I think here's sort of a way to think about it that might make it easy and accessible to people. So the Metaverse is already here. It's not something that Facebook is building. It's not something that's 2 years away. Go play the game Fortnite.
Right.
All right. Now, I'm not a gamer, but I watch kids play it. And Fortnite, you are an avatar. You can change your clothes. You can buy stuff. You can buy, the clothes you wear are called skins, and you can buy special, things to make you look scary and powerful. So there's e-commerce. You can trade things. You collaborate. You create things together. You are an avatar that's in this mystical and exciting 3D world. You can even go and interact with brands, and you can watch concerts. So if the Metaverse seems mysterious and like something that's super futuristic, just either watch a kid play Fortnite or go to Twitch and you can watch people play games. And so it's a way to kind of think about, okay, I kind of see what's going on here. And I see what the possibilities are. What business problems does this solve? So it's sort of interesting being in a virtual world. You don't have to travel. You don't have to go to a store. That would have been kind of nice during the pandemic. So some of the things, certainly there's going to be lots of opportunities for education. There's going to be lots of opportunities for e-commerce and shopping and gaming. But then you have to start thinking about, what does it mean for B2B? I don't really know right now. You have to think about what's the problem with Zoom? Okay, what's the problem with Zoom? What's the problem with Ecamm Live or live streaming? Well, would I rather be sitting here with you and I'm showing up as a dragon? Well, that would be a gimmick. What if I floated around? What if we were doing this in a castle? Well, okay, that might be interesting once, but I think that's going to get old. It doesn't really solve a lot of business problems. So we have to say, okay, we already have a glimpse of what's possible with the metaverse. Just go to Fortnite and then start thinking about, okay, how what are some of the inventive and amazing things that human beings are going to do to use this in new ways? Could this solve problems for me? And I think that's sort of a template to think about the metaverse in a practical way.
So, to follow up with that, do you think the metaverse and Web 3.0 is like radio going to television and we have a new channel to go to, or is it something totally like shattering that, this is going to change everything, like the internet?
Well, I look at the metaverse and Web 3.0 as two different things, really. The metaverse, honestly, to me, the jury's still out. I think there's a lot of hype, and I reserve the right to be completely wrong. And certainly, I can't anticipate the potential of the metaverse, just like nobody at the beginning could anticipate the potential of the internet. One of my favorite quotes: at the dawn of the internet, there was a senior vice president at IBM who said, "Yeah, I predict that there will be something like a search engine, but it would be so expensive that probably only 5 companies in the world could afford it," right? So, I mean, again, um, that was someone at the cusp of this new technology that simply couldn't imagine what was going to be possible. And I think we need to be open learners right now for all of this new technology. I actually think Web3 has probably more opportunity for disruption and more, maybe even more applications to marketing than even the metaverse. Um, I just think the Web 3.0 has the opportunity to disrupt things that should have been disrupted a long time ago. And the narrow part of Web 3 that I'm experimenting with, and by the way, I'd encourage everyone to explore. All right. Don't just ignore it and hope that it's going to go away. Just take one step and start learning about these things. I'm using my Rise coin and my Rise community as a learning community, basically as a big experiment. If you want to be part of this, just drop me an email and let me know, and I'll get you a couple coins and we can learn on this together. Don't ignore it. In all of these things, just dip your toe in and look around and explore and start to learn some of the language. Web3 is super complicated with a lot of new terms and a lot of new technologies that are very hard to understand. So just take one step. Web3, we're on step 1 of a 1,000 step journey. But by the end of this year, we might be on step 500. It's going to move really, really fast. I think this could change certainly any sort of loyalty programs. It could redefine community, which is what I'm really interested in. There's just so many incredible possible applications and so many new use cases. And the thing that's exciting to me is that this is happening so fast that I'm learning something every single day. So I would encourage people just to try it, to explore, to learn. Find some people in the space that you like and you trust, and just watch what they're doing and look at their content, but don't ignore it, because I think Web3 is going to be transformational. And if you look at the amount of money and the amount of development going into this, the use cases are just exploding. And I'm so happy that I'm an early adopter, because I don't know what I'm doing, but at least I've got a seat
Right.
to know what I don't know.
Exactly. And a lot of people are talking about this. Jonathan said, I think it'll help us better conduct virtual meetings. Zoom isn't cutting it for large groups. 3D virtual space. With Peg Fitzpatrick and Guy Kawasaki, who I do their podcast, is we did the Oculus rooms. It's really cool because I can go from my computer and then go to a whiteboard and stuff. So,
that's great. Yeah, it solves a problem. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And
if
so
it solves the problem, then it'll happen.
Yeah.
Right. And
if it doesn't solve a problem, it's a gimmick.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a very good point. And but I think your idea of community. I mean, Disney just hired a director of the Metaverse. They're going to be, they're selling NFTs for Disney already, and it's going for $5,000. It's nuts.
Oh, the NFT. Yeah, if you're a beloved brand like Disney, Marvel, Nike, the Star Wars franchise. I mean, the money from NFTs, anything that kind of goes in the area of collectibles, the money is going to be unbelievable. It already is. The money's unbelievable.
I've invested in the NBA virtual trading cards just to see what it was, just to, like you were saying, put your feet in and see what it's going to be. So
right, I love that.
Grace, you had a question? Sorry, I'm interrupted.
No, I was just listening to you. I was thinking about beloved brands, actually, if you want to know.
So I was like, for our final question, Mark, and thank you for going a little late for us. And thank you guys for tuning in, because I got so many great questions from Mark, because when you get Mark in a room or on it, you want to just hold on to him and not let him go. So, it's clinging to Mark. That should be an NFT. So somebody could come up with that. Me grabbing onto Mark, we'll sell it. Talk about, you mentioned this Rise Creator Coin. Why did you do it? And just, you don't have to, I know it's a big subject, but just for people who want to go to your blog, and I actually did it when you first launched it, and I own part of Mark.
Yeah, you do.
So how does that work, and why did you decide to do it?
Well, I saw it happening, and at first I sort of resisted it because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the use case, the business case for these creator communities. I was seeing people coming on, and they were like artists and they were musicians, and I didn't really see how I fit. Then I saw more and more thought leaders, people who are my peers and colleagues, start to get on. So I thought, well, look, I need to start experimenting, right? I mean, I need to take my own medicine, right? And I think this is a matter really of being relevant. If you're going to be relevant in the next 18 months to 2 years, you've got to immerse yourself in what's happening with Web3 and specifically with these creator communities. So I went all in, and trust me when I say I had no idea what I was doing, but I'm learning. It's like having this community. It's almost like having a new college education. I've learned so much in the last 6 months. Really, like you said, it would take a lot of time to explain what it is. But basically what you do is you can get tokens. There's plenty of opportunities in my community to get free tokens. I give away free tokens every week. So you don't have to invest anything. There's really no risk. There's no obligation because most of the time I'm just giving them away anyway. And if they don't do anything, then, who cares? At least I'm still learning. But the tokens are doing something. I mean, it's a cryptocurrency. They're worth real money. It's increased in value. We're getting weekly rewards. My community last week got over $10,000 in 1 week. What the percentage of my coin that you own, that's the percentage of the $10,000 that you got this week. It's going to be even more than that. So there are dividends. I've got things on my site. You can buy my books using crypto for $5. That's 80% off. You can go to my classes. You can attend my masterclass. You can buy a ticket for an event. And that's just the beginning. There's a whole ecosystem. There's going to be almost like a creator mall that comes out that you're going to be able to use these tokens for lots of interesting, exciting, and exclusive services, products, NFTs. It's just like I said, step one of 1,000 steps, but it's already pretty cool.
Yeah, I was kind of poo-poo on the whole creator coin things until I saw Mark do it. And I was like, okay, if Mark's behind it, then I'm really interested now in seeing how that could work. I like the idea of having your currency that people can buy your products from.
And you know the best part about this is that I can use these tokens to say thank you, right? So, I mean, I've lived in this world where I've benefited from so many wonderful people like you, like Grace, like Gary, who was on a few minutes ago, like Brooke, who was on last week. And this is an opportunity for me to just give away tokens and say thank you. You know, you've been such a supporter. Here's a gift from me. You can be part of this. Let's be in this together. And I love that really it's all of a sudden like a two-way system instead of just people doing nice things for me. That's the best part about this so far.
That's awesome.
Love that, Mark.
Thank you, Mark, for staying late. And before we wrap up, I want to let you tell people where they can go and find out about creator coins that you have, and also where they can find you and your books. By the way, if you're watching over on Amazon Live, all of Mark's books are listed down below in the carousel. Make sure you check those out. A lot of the people here in the chat have read them and continue to reread them because they're that good. So make sure you guys check those out. So, Mark, where can we find you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. I love you both. I appreciate you both. I'm so appreciative of your professionalism and especially your patience with me today. You can find everything about me at Businesses Grow. Actually, it's right there below my name. You can find my blog, my podcast, my books. You can learn a little bit about the Rise coin. I called it Rise instead of Mark. Because it's for me, it's about rising above the noise, right? That's what we all want to do today. We want to be heard. We want to be seen. We want to be discovered. And that's, what this community is about, is how do we do that together? So the coin is called Rise. There's a little place on my website at the nav bar. It says Rise. So you can learn a little about that and learn how to get involved. And if you have any questions or you're confused, just drop me an email. Drop me a DM on social media, and I'll help you walk through it because we're all in this together.
So let us know in the comments if you think that some sort of creator coin would be something that you'd like for Grace and I to do for this show. Because, like I said, I'd like to get my feet wet in this. Carrie even said, the wonderful Carrie Ray said she as well gave it a serious thought when she saw it in Mark's newsletter, and Ann Hanley is doing it too. Value their words and recommendations. Chad says Cumulative Advantage is still my favorite book that he has ever read. That the Bible as well, Chad, because come on, I mean, that's really, I just want to get that clear. So we may have to talk after. But anyway, Mark, thank you so much for being on here and coming, and just you're so personable and in the way you want to help people. Really, really appreciate you. Grace, thank you for putting this together. Where can people find all about the amazing Grace Duffy?
You can find me over at Restream's YouTube channel. We just relaunched our new series of live shows. I launched our Creator Spotlight this last week, and next week we are doing our product marketing show. So if you want to know anything and everything about Restream, please join us over there. It's Wednesday, noon Central, I believe. So I'll just follow us subscribe over to our YouTube channel, and you'll get the latest from me. And then I'm here every Friday with Jeff, except when I'm not. So
that's right. And don't forget, we're also a podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast player. Make sure you check out Mark and Brooks' Marketing Companion podcast is amazing. And also Gary Stockton, who was on before about small business. He dropped the link in down below, and we'll push that out as well. But make sure you guys go and subscribe and leave a review, because that really does help podcasters out. Our next show is Friday, February 25th at 11 a.m., 10 a.m. Central. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Amazon Live. Don't forget our sponsors, the amazing Ecamm. They helped us put this show together today. As you can see, we did things on the fly, and it worked amazingly well. But you can find out more about them at social media news, live.com/Ecamm. And with that, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Carrie. All of you in the audience for your great comments and putting up with us today. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Oop. Where is it? There it is.
Wait. How'd you get your video?
Looking like a hot mess.
No, it's actually a powerful live streaming app for Mac called Ecamm Live. You can add some overlays to your video, whether it's a simple graphic or you want to have some titles or other info at the bottom of your screen. You can even add animated overlays like this one or this one. And you can add branded overlays to frame you and your guests and look like a real legit broadcast. And you can save each layout as a scene and switch between them with the press of a button.